Good morning, everyone. My name is Daryl Jones. I'm an attorney and the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. As you all know, we're on the eve of a major hearing here in the state of Georgia. It's a hearing to reinstate and restore the voting rights of people that were wrongfully removed, we contend, from the voter rolls here in the state of Georgia. But that's not the reason we gather here this morning. We gather here this morning in the spirit of John Lewis. We gather here this morning to be certain that every citizen in the state of Georgia that wants to exercise their constitutional right to vote has that opportunity, unfettered, uninterfered with. We're here this morning to introduce the John Lewis Good Trouble Marches and Votercade series here in Georgia. This is a Votercade series that started in Danville, Virginia, traveled to St. Louis, Missouri, traveled to Chicago, Illinois, traveled to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, has had showings in California, has had showings all over America. But today, it's coming home, to the home of John Lewis, to here in Georgia. That's why we're here today. And we're inviting all Georgians to come on out on December the 14th, which is the first day of early voting here in the state of Georgia. Join in one of the motorcades or votercades. And our motorcades and votercades for our marches, they don't go from point A to point B and go home. They go from point A to the polling booth. You go to a polling site, to a drop box, and exercise that right to vote. It's my pleasure this evening, this afternoon, this morning, to introduce several folks that are going to bring remarks. But I would be remiss if I did not begin by thanking all of our partners that are involved in this effort with the Transformative Justice Coalition. We also have the People's Agenda, the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. We have with us the Rainbow Push Coalition. We have with us the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And we also have with us the National Bar Association as partners. And I'll tell you, it would take me almost half an hour to go over every community organization, the hundreds of community organizations that have also partnered with us on this effort. But as we begin this press conference, it's my pleasure to bring a person who needs no introduction, who's been a steady hand at the helm of voting rights and the interests of people in the state of Georgia. He is the CEO of the SCLC, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. Dr. Steele.
Thank you so much, and welcome. So happy to be in front of this great institution of SCLC in terms of welcoming you this morning. And with the John Lewis Good Trouble Marches and Votercade Caravan, this is an excellent opportunity. And being an old Alabama boy like I am, Dr. Barbara Arnwine, my good friend, we've been together for a long time, and to have Miss Butler here, Helen Butler, and the rest of you, it's just a moving experience. But I have to mention another name that many folks don't talk about. Jimmy Lee Jackson.
Oh, yes.
Jimmy Lee Jackson. Many people don't know about Jimmy Lee Jackson. Out of Marion, Alabama.
That's right.
That started the Voter Rights Act in terms of Jose Williams, and ultimately being led by none other than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But Jimmy Lee Jackson lost his life with the right to vote by a state trooper.
That's right.
Selma was a direct action
That's right.
to go and put the body of Jimmy Lee Jackson at the Capitol steps when George Wallace was the governor. We should never forget that. And to have good trouble, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Congressman John Lewis gave his life for good trouble. And ladies and gentlemen, what you must realize is that we must restore the right to vote. And we're going to do that after this election. But we got to get the right folks in office first. And once we get the folks in office, everything else will take care of itself in terms of the pressure that we must exert. We cannot get folks in office and not bring about the pressure of folks doing the right thing. Politics is great, but politics need action, need civil rights activists, need folks on the ground. And I'll close with this. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was meeting with A. Philip Randolph. And A. Philip Randolph was trying to get the March on Washington of 1963. We got to know our history in terms of the right to vote. And he said, Mr. President, we're tired of being second-class citizens within this country. It's time out for that. We want to have a march on Washington. And FDR was afraid at that time to do it. Ultimately, it took place with all of the civil rights groups coming together. But this is what's so significant about what FDR told A. Philip Randolph. He said, Philip, I believe in everything that you've said about the right to vote, getting folks involved, and black folks, African-American, Negroes sitting at the table like everyone else on an equal basis. He said, but do me a favor. A. Philip Randolph asked FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, what, Mr. President? He said, make me do it. So what I'm saying is that you can never take it for granted. Some people take you for granted, and others just take you. You got to go out there and make it happen and make people be accountable. Thank you so much for coming this morning. I'm fired up and want to march right now. That's what brought about the right to vote. You got to march. You can't rest on your laurels. And thank you, Dr. Barbara Arnwine. Thank you for the committee and the chairman, and Helen, you've been out here a long time. And just keep on doing what you're doing, because we will be victorious. God bless you.
If you're not feeling the fire by now, I suggest you take your pulse, because you got to be feeling it, because he's bringing it. The next person that we'd like to bring up to present and to speak on this is the executive director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. You know, when I first met Helen Butler, she's quiet, very nice, unassuming, just sweet lady. Then we talked about what was going on. The niceness turned into focus. The niceness turned into, we got something to do. The niceness turned into, well, I can best put it this way. I can remember someone once saying, you can pray until you faint, but unless you get up and do something, God ain't going to put it into your hands. That was Fannie Lou Hamer, and I could tell you those words would apply today to Helen Butler, the executive director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Group. Helen Butler.
Good morning and good after. It's not afternoon yet, so it's still good morning. I'm glad to be here, and in honor of our founder, the late Dr. Joseph Eccles Lowry, I bring you greetings from the Coalition for the People's Agenda. And that's what we're about, is the people's agenda. That's right. We're here today because Dr. Lowry, Dr. King, Julian Bond, all of those civil rights leaders, Rita Jackson Samuels, right? That's right. Coretta Scott King, right? Zenona Clayton, right? All those unsung heroes like Lula Joe Williams, right? There are so many like that were in the struggle to make it happen for us. So what good trouble means is that we're carrying on that legacy. We're going to march to the polls. As Daryl said, I'm not one that talks a lot. I like to do it. Okay? We're here to protect every voter's right to exercise their vote. Whether we do it in the street, whether we do it in the corporate suites, or whether we do it in court. We're here to protect that sacred right to vote. So these marches are intended to move people to exercise that right to vote. We're asking everyone that is listening, get ready. December the 14th is the first day of early voting. If you haven't requested a vote by mail, here's your chance.
Yes.
If you got your vote by mail, you can join us still because the votercade will take you to the drop box.
Yes.
So you don't have to interfere or be around people because of COVID. But if you need a ride to your polling location, we'll also have that available for you. So there is no excuse.
Yes.
It's critical. We have 2 Senate positions up and a public service commission.
Yes.
Senators are the holdup right now for us getting our stimulus packages. The Public Service Commission is giving Georgia Power lots of freedom to increase your utility rates, not to give you broadband. So it is critical that you get a public service commissioner.
That's right.
So what I'm saying is, make sure you make an informed decision, but make that decision. Don't give up your power, because that's what you do when you don't vote.
Yes.
So what are we going to do? Vote! What are we going to do?
Vote!
What are we going to do?
Vote!
We're going to vote starting December the 14th
There you go.
and going all the way to December 31st,
Yes.
which is the last day of early voting. But then, January 5th,
Come on now.
we're coming with the last wave. We're going to do what?
Vote!
What we going to do?
Vote!
What we going to do?
Vote!
All right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I told y'all she could bring the fire.
Oh, yes.
Starts out very nice. Miss Butler, if someone needs a ride to the polls,
Yes.
is there a number they can call?
Of course. If you need a ride to the poll, 877-524-8683.
One more time.
877-524-8683. But you also can go to the website ridetothepoll.com. RIDETOTHEPOLL.com. There's also an app called Ride to the Poll on both Android and iPhone.
All right. Amen. All right now.
Transportation to the poll will not be an excuse that anyone be able to use to say that's the reason they didn't vote.
That's right.
So call the number, get your ride if you need a ride to the poll. Additionally, once you're at the polls, if you run into issues, for any issue, look for anyone wearing a black and white election protection shirt.
Yes.
They can help to resolve that issue.
Yes.
If they can't resolve that issue, call 866-OUR-VOTE. 866-OUR-VOTE.
There you go.
You know, folks, when I first got involved in politics, I guess I must have been 6 or 7 years old at the time, everything was coming very quickly. But then as I grew up and had the opportunity to serve on Capitol Hill, I had the opportunity to run into a congressman. I didn't know anybody, but I knew that the congressman I ran into was a real nice man. Said his door was open. Whenever I had a question, come on in. I didn't know anything. later on, we would talk some more, and I would, run across him 2-3 more times. And then I had the occasion to come down to Atlanta for vacation, and while I was here, who should show up but Congressman John Lewis? And I had the chance to talk to him some more and develop a friendship with him. And what I can tell you about him from my experiences is this. He was a people person.
Yeah.
He was about the community.
Yeah.
He would say of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, don't talk about me. It was about all the foot soldiers. It wasn't just me. Focus on the people, the community. I am so pleased to bring up to the podium somebody who walks in those steps of being certain that he represents the interests of the people of the city of Atlanta, City Councilman Michael Julian Bond.
Are we fired up?
Yes.
Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Are we fired up?
Yes.
Are we ready to go?
Yes.
We're going to go on December the 14th, right?
Yes.
We're going to go on January 5th, right?
Yes.
We're going to go on December the 14th, right?
Yes.
And every day in between, right?
Yes.
To January 5th, right?
Yes.
But guess what? After January 5th, it's still not over. When this man, my godfather, John Lewis, went across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with Hosea Williams and hundreds of others, when they couldn't complete their task, guess what? They came back. They came back to complete the mission of Mr. Jackson, who was killed and slain in Alabama. But after that march was complete, when Dr. King came back and they made it all the way across, guess what? They didn't stop. They kept going. When they got the Voting Rights Act, when they got the Public Accommodations Act, when they were putting together the War on Poverty, when they were putting together the Poor People's Campaign in 1968, and Dr. King couldn't be there, guess what? They didn't stop.
That's right.
So when we go to the polls on December the 14th and every day in between to January the 5th, guess what? It's not over.
Yes.
It's not over.
I like that, Doctor.
You know,
Yes.
Election Day is not a birthday.
That's right.
Election Day is not just a one-time special event.
Yes.
It's not an anniversary.
Yes.
It's not a retirement party.
Yes.
It is an ongoing part of our democracy
Yes.
that we have to utilize over and over again. I like sports, as you might have figured out, but elections are like innings in baseball.
Yes.
You play one inning to the best of your ability, but you got another one to play.
Yes.
You got another one that's forthcoming. You've got to score in every inning. And the way that we score in every inning is that we use our power and we vote. It is the one power guaranteed to you by the Constitution. It is the one power that every citizen in America has. Why wouldn't you use your power? I like comic books, right? But guess what? If I were Superman, or if I were a woman, Wonder Woman, and if somebody needed to be saved from an oncoming train or a villain or a supervillain or bad guys, I wouldn't just say, you know what? I'm not going to be invulnerable today. I'm not going to be bulletproof today. I'm not going to use my power to fly today. Why on earth would you give up any of your power? So the same question applies if you apply the logic. Why wouldn't I give up my power to vote in America? Whether it's at the city level, county level, state level, and in this case it's the state and federal level, from December the 14th and every day in between to January the 5th, you need to use your power. You need to show up and vote. Georgia is the center of the political universe for the next 3 weeks. It can be the haven. It can be the balm in Gilead for the people of Georgia. But all the people in Georgia have to lean in. You got to block. You've got to defend. I'm going to give you one more analogy and then I'm going to stop. Playing football, everybody watches Monday Night Football. Everybody watches football on Sunday. Everybody on the football field is fighting for the ball. But if the ball wasn't important, if it wasn't important to score, the other team wouldn't try to stop you from doing so. Guess what, America? Guess what, Atlanta? Guess what, Auburn Avenue? Guess what, Rainbow Coalition? Guess what, Transformative Coalition, guess what? All of our partners, the other team is trying to stop you from scoring. They're trying to keep the ball away from you. Now, if you're like me, I want to run all the way. I want to run that ball. I want to get it into the end zone. Or I want to come up and catch it just like that. I want to score. But what that means is that you got to get up. You can't Monday morning quarterback your freedom. You've got to be an active participant. You got to get on the field. So I want to ask you to get on the field. It's not enough that we got Joe Biden in Georgia. It's not enough that we've got candidates, Democratic candidates that can compete. We don't just want to compete. We want to win. So we want you to come out and vote. Vote like you've never done before. Vote better than you voted on November the 3rd. Come back out. Shake the bushes. Knock on the door. Call your relatives. Text them. Facebook them. Twitter them. Whatever you got to do. But get it out. Use your power. When you use your power, you're exercising freedom. But when we all vote, thank you very much.
As any good speaker, when I hear good analogies, I write them down so I can steal them. You know, it's my pleasure to introduce someone now who doesn't need much of an introduction, known nationally and internationally. I can recall hearing someone say, we're nonpartisan. We just want people to be able to vote. That's it. We want your vote to be able to count. We don't want other votes weighted more heavily. We don't want gerrymandering. We just want fairness. Maybe I can put it more clearly using this analogy. What we want is a level playing field. What we want are rules that are transparent and officiating that's fair. Give us all of that, and we can live with the results, but make it fair. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce someone who has been in the fight to make it fair. Someone who's been in the fight for a level playing field. Someone who's been in the fight to be certain that all the rules are transparent and that everyone is playing by the same rules. She is the founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. She is the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. She is the past person that has been over the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law, protecting all of America's right to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the voting rights champion of America, Barbara Arnwine.
Good morning, Georgia.
Good morning.
We are here today because the world, the nation, everybody has one focus point for the next several weeks. And that focus point is Georgia. And the question is, how will Georgia vote? Will the people of Georgia come out? Will they show the world, show the nation like they did on November 3rd, that nobody knows us but us, that we know what needs to happen, and in this time, when we are suffering as Americans, where we see people in food lines because of food insecurity, stretching what people mouths, not blocks but scarcity of food. And our Senate, what is it doing? It's sitting back. It's not addressing the needs of the people. People need money. People, 40 million Americans threatened with evictions. But the worst tragedy, oh my goodness, the one that cuts to the core of why we're here is that this good man, a year ago and a few days ago, on December the 6th, he stood in the well of the Congress as the House passed the Voting Rights Advancement Act. Yes. And he hugged me and said, Barbara, we're getting it done. And that bill has been sitting in the Senate. Yes. Ever since, not even called up for a vote, not even called up for a hearing. They've done nothing. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is sitting there, and it needs to come to the floor. The people of this state needs it. When you're hearing about the cutbacks of early voting sites in Cobb County, when you hear about what Chatham County, when you hear about less drop boxes, less early voting sites. Remember, in Cobb County, people stood in line for what? 3 hours already. And now they're talking about less voting places. That could not happen if you had the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Could not happen. This is a result of the lack of the protections. This is a result of the failure, the absolute failure of the Senate. That's why we need a Senate that can speak to people. So on December the 14th, on Monday, we're saying to all Georgians, it's time. It's time to show to the polls and get your vote on. It's time to do what is necessary and to get into what? Good trouble, necessary trouble. So you see all of these marches that are going to be held throughout the state. You notice that it's not one march, it's not 2 marches, that it's already 14 and they're growing. There will be more, and we're going to come back and do repeat marches during the week. And we're going to have votercades. And votercades is where people get in their cars and they're safe, but they're doing the work of calling people's attention to the right to vote, the need to vote. And that's not all we're going to do. You see, we're already calling into the state because we're working with the mighty people's agenda. And we've been making hundreds and thousands, we've been making thousands of calls into the state. We have sent already what? Helen, over 300,000 postcards into the state because we know that we need it. And our young people are on fire. Hey, our young people. The difference in all the other states and Georgia is that the young people came and showed out like you've never seen before. Because, and when I've asked them, the young people, why did you vote? They said because of Ahmaud Arbery. They said because of Rayshard Brooks. They have called their names and said, that's why I voted. So they are here, and they're going to turn out and show it up again. So Georgia, you're not just on our mind. Georgia, people aren't just taking no midnight train. Georgia, you're about to lead the way. Georgia, you're about to change it all up. Georgia, we're about to have a new day in this country because you, Georgia, you vote. So we can't wait. We'll see you on Monday. We're going to be votercading all over the place. We're going to be calling out people all over the place. And I've done 31 of these marches and votercades around the country. And I can tell you that people get in line, people get excited. They're going to have the fish fries afterwards and the barbecues. They're going to celebrate because voting should be an occasion of happiness. There's nothing more precious than our right to vote. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. We're going to do what has to be done. Thank you. Atlanta, come on. Let it go. Monday.
Each round just goes higher and higher, higher and higher. And so it's time to take it to the spiritual realm. We know that the African American movement in America is grounded in the church. We know that when the slaves came over in the slave ship, in the body of that ship, it was nothing but a spirit that kept them alive. As they were tortured on the ships, as they came to this foreign land and had to learn a different language, it was the spiritual side of them that helped them to persevere. It's my pleasure to bring to the podium one of the people that best demonstrates the spirit, the determination, the focus, the willingness to get out and do what is right for the people that were brought here. We're not partisan in this business that we're doing here of getting people to vote. But the one partisanship thing that we do have is that we push spirituality. And we're unapologetic in pushing in that area. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce out of the southwest region of Georgia. I'm learning. Southwest region of Georgia. Bishop Reginald Jackson to the podium to talk about the support that he has now given us in these motorcades and these votercades in the good trouble and folks coming out to vote. Bishop Jackson.
Let me say good morning, everybody. Good morning. In 2016, when I was assigned to Georgia, I made a comment at an NAACP dinner that I was angry with black folk in Georgia. Because in 2016, so few blacks turned out to vote. And that's why the current occupant of the White House is there. But I want you to know today I am so proud of blacks in Georgia because in November you shocked the nation and turned Georgia a different color, I'll put it that way. But let me say that as I come today and I'm representing faith leaders from across the state, and they're on a call right now with faith leaders across the state, but I told them I couldn't be on because I wanted to come here. But let me say that I am very concerned because I don't think anything happens by coincidence. It's not a coincidence that 1 week before early voting begins that we hear about them reducing the number of polling sites, especially in areas that impact us. It is not a coincidence that in 2020, when you have more than 800,000 new registrants in Georgia, rather than increasing, you decrease the number of polling sites, especially where we live. Monday is the first day of early voting. I just believe reducing polling sites is nothing more than an attempt to suppress our vote. I think they were so surprised that blacks turned out in the numbers that we turned out, that they've decided there's got to be some way we can reduce their impact. But I hope black folk will surprise them again. No matter how long we have to wait, no matter how long we have to stand, no matter how long we have to stay there, we're going to vote. Because, brothers and sisters, let me tell you, control of the Senate to me is just as important as who's in the White House. Because the current majority leader has been a bigger pain. And if I wasn't around church folk, I'd say something else. Has been a biggest pain as the man who lives in the White House. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act should have been passed by now so we wouldn't have to deal with this. But one man has held it up. Healthcare, one man trying to undo it. And my brothers and my sisters, I hope blacks in Georgia will send a message all across this nation that we have power and we know how to use it. I heard somebody talk about pressure. Well, I hope blacks will understand nothing changes without pressure. Not being nice, not being kind, not being sweet, nothing changes without pressure. I'm hoping beginning next Monday, we will apply pressure. Now, I got tickled on November the 3rd because Donald Trump went to bed with a 365,000 vote lead in Georgia. And they just knew Georgia was going to stay red. Well, they woke up the next morning, the number had gone down. Next day, it went down some more. And they're wondering, what in the world is happening? Well, on election day, the first votes they counted were those who voted on election day. And most of them were that crowd. But most of us voted by absentee ballot and voted early. And that's the vote they counted last. My brothers and sisters, on January the 5th, let's make the results the same. Let's vote by absentee ballot. Let's vote by early voting. Let them feel relaxed. But when the vote comes in and our voice is heard, let them say, daggone it, those black folk did it again.
Come on, Bishop.
Now let me close. You know, I came here from New Jersey. And in New Jersey, we had a problem with racial profiling. Driving while black, and 600 black preachers had a meeting with the governor and the attorney general. And the attorney general said, you all come in here demanding us? How you gonna make us do it? And I said to Attorney General Venero, have you met my elder brother? No. Where does he live? Everywhere. What does he do? Everything. About 6 months later, the federal government took over the New Jersey State Police. We had another meeting with the Attorney General. He said, how did y'all do this? I said, let me ask you again. Have you met my elder brother? My brothers and sisters, I believe that God is always on the side of the oppressed. And if we do our part, God will do his. So I believe we're going to do our part. I believe we're going to get up, go out, and vote. And I believe when the votes have been counted, just like the eyes of the nation are on Georgia, they're going to be surprised that Georgia did it not once, but we've done it twice. My brothers and sisters, let's go do it. It's in our hands.
Thank you, Bishop. You know, I think it was Frederick Douglass that said, power concedes nothing without demand. And when Barbara Arnwine and I started on our journey with these John Lewis Good Trouble voter awareness marches, folks looked at us like we were crazy. They said, don't you know it's a pandemic that's out there? People aren't going to come out talk about voting. And Barbara turned to me and said, well, what do you think? I said, I think we should start preparing to vote. We should start preparing to march. This is what we need to do. Our first march was down in Danville, Virginia. I had never heard of Danville, Virginia. But Barbara said, Danville is where we're going. So I said, all right, we'll go to Danville. So as we headed down to Danville, Virginia, now we're leaving from Maryland. Virginia is maybe an hour away from Maryland. 5 hours later, we're still on the road. And as we're pulling into Danville, Virginia, we're seeing these Confederate flags all along the sides as we enter this small town. Get to the hotel. No one had to ask me if I wanted to go out to eat. I wasn't going anywhere. The next day, we geared up for the first John Lewis Good Trouble Voter Awareness March. And it was there in Danville, Virginia, the old and the last capital of the old Confederacy, that we gathered and we started marching. And we marched up to one of the churches where John Lewis spoke there in Danville. And it happened to also be a church where Dr. King spoke. And we took a knee at that church and listened to the words of the sermon from Dr. King. And then we got up from that church, was on the top of a hill. And we began to march. And to call it a modest bridge would be an overstatement. But we came to this bridge that was named after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the folks of Danville explained to us how hard they had to fight the legislature and the city council there to get this less than modest bridge named after this great man. As we came to the bottom of that hill, Bishop, we were met by a sea of Confederate flags. People standing, watching. No people of color. Y'all know what I'm saying. And the question at that point became, in my mind, how will the people of Danville, the people of color, the black people in Danville, respond? Here's how they responded. They put their shoulders back. They raised their backs. They put their heads up. And they started chanting, "We will overcome. We must overcome. We shall overcome." That's what the spirit of this John Lewis March is all about. And as we went into communities such as Danville, Virginia, we turned to the National Bar Association and told them what we were doing. And C.K. Hoffler, who is the president of the National Bar Association, without hesitation, said, "If you're marching, we got your back. If you have to go to court, we got your back." I have 66,000 black lawyers ready to go, litigators, looking for a cause. So folks, it's my pleasure to bring up to the podium the president of the 66,000 black lawyers, one of the attorneys involved in the litigation and the hearing that will be here in Georgia tomorrow morning, my friend, my mentor, my attorney, C.K. Hoffler.
I'm going to take all this off to my client, the incomparable Barbara Arnwine, the mother of the election protection movement. Let's make no mistake about that. To Daryl Jones, chair of the board of Transformative Justice Coalition. To Helen Butler, the incomparable Helen Butler, from the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. To Bishop Reginald Jackson, who talked about pressure, who presides over 500 churches. We hear you. To Council Member Michael Julian Bond, who spoke so eloquently, who has paid his dues representing people here. Member at large. And to God, who is in this house, in this place today, I say it is an honor. It's a pleasure for me to be the president of the National Bar Association. I represent the interests of over 66,000 lawyers, judges,
law students, law professors in this country. It's an honor for me to be chair of the board of Rainbow Push Coalition. I'm speaking on behalf of Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's an honor. But I want you all to know, ladies and gentlemen, that tomorrow I'm a trial lawyer. You see, I know someone who's never lost a case. I know someone who goes into battles and fights to represent over 197,000 Georgians that have been stripped, purged, oppressed from their right to vote. And that's what the battle is tomorrow. That's what we're doing. So I just wanted to say briefly to all of you assembled here today, we thank you for being here. For those who are in the fields, in the movement, marching every day, knocking on doors. During COVID, we say thank you. To Barbara Arnwine, the mother of election protection, that nonpartisan movement that we are all involved in, I say thank you. To those of you in the ministry, in the church, and to Charles Steele Jr. from SCLC, the only SCLC, we thank you. We thank you for opening up your home. But I want you all to pray tomorrow, because tomorrow is Judgment Day. And we need your prayers, because it's a tough fight. But there's no better fight that I'd like to have than representing Transformative Justice Coalition, Barbara Arnwine, Rainbow Push Coalition, Jesse Jackson, Black Voters Matter Fund, Latasha Brown, and Southwest Voting and Education Matter. And why? Because they represent the people of Georgia in this fight. And no one said it's ever going to be easy. But we just have to join together and apply that pressure, Bishop, that you talked about. Because we stand on the shoulders of that Thurgood Marshall, of that Constance Baker Motley, Charles Hamilton Houston, Johnny Cochran, Willie Gary, and so many others in the fight. And we don't have the right to say no. So I want you to know the National Bar Association lawyers are leading that fight tomorrow. We do have a Rainbow Coalition team. Yes, we do, because we look like America. But I want you to know at the head of that team are lawyers from the National Bar and our Young Lawyers Division, because they need to know what it is to fight on behalf of those civil rights leaders. And they're part of the fight too. And so we ask that you pray for us, that you join us in the fight, and you follow what happens.
And tell them about Fred Gray.
And finally, you see, ladies and gentlemen, in life, there's a convergence of history that's inexplicable. Well, it's explicable because God predestines. Dr. King had a lawyer, and that was Fred Gray. Rosa Parks had a lawyer, and that was Fred Gray. The Tuskegee victims of that syphilis experiment had a lawyer, and that was Fred Gray. Barbara Arnwine, Daryl Jones, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Latasha Brown, and others tomorrow have a lawyer. And that is none other than Fred Gray. And so you see, history is coming full circle. Here in Atlanta, ATL, where Dr. King's church is right down the street. Where he fought so much, his attorney is in the house. Representing something that Congressman John Lewis fought so hard for us to do, which was to protect the right to vote. And I'm going to close with a little story. On March 2nd of this year, I met with Reverend Jackson and Congressman John Lewis in Congressman's office down the street. Because I wanted to know, this is before I was sworn in as National Bar President, what should my agenda look like? My civil rights agenda, my voting rights agenda. And this is what they told me. They said, CK, we marched. We got beaten. Some of us got killed. So that you and others would have the right to vote. The National Bar Association and its lawyers must protect that right to vote. And that's what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I got to put my triple mask on, you know.
All right, then.
Thank you, CK, for those words. You know, when Congressman John Lewis passed, his body was taken to different areas around the country. And when it came to Washington, D.C., and was lying in state at the Capitol, at the rotunda, the steps of the rotunda, Barbara Arnwine and I went to view the remains of Congressman Lewis. And they were trying to, the best they could, the Capitol Police were trying to keep the line moving, keep floats flowing. As we approached the casket that carried the body of Congressman Lewis, Barbara and I stopped, started to do a prayer, and then Barbara said, no, we need to do a knee. And so we took a knee at the casket of John Lewis, and we made a promise to him. We promised him that his work in the world of voting rights would not be forgotten, that we would pick up the torch and carry it as far as we could carry it to encourage other people to get involved and to vote and to understand the history of the whole voting rights movement. And I want to just take a moment, if I may, to explain to you the banner that is behind me. If you look on the banner, on the far left side, you will see the emblem, the logo of the Transformative Justice Coalition. And while that's a great logo, it's not the most important logo or thing on that banner. If you look to the far right, you'll see the logo for Rainbow Push Coalition. Outstanding historical coalition that has done a lot for people in voting in America. With all due respect, that's not the most important part of this banner. If we come back on the left side, next and just under the Transformative logo, Justice logo, you'll see the National Bar Association logo representing the some 66,000 lawyers. But that's not the most important part of this banner. In the center of the banner, you see the image of Congressman John Lewis. And while extremely important, that is not the most important part of the banner. But if you look closely behind the image of John Lewis, you will see in the shadows the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It is the Edmund Pettus Bridge that is the most central part of this banner. And every place this banner has gone, the Edmund Pettus Bridge has been crossed. Whether it's the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Danville and dealing with the racism, whether it's the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Chicago dealing with black-on-black crime and the death problems, whether it's whatever the issue was, that Edmund Pettus Bridge has been crossed in that state. It's now here in Georgia, where you'll be crossing your Edmund Pettus Bridge dealing with health care, your Edmund Pettus Bridge dealing with every major issue that Georgia has to set. It's my pleasure to bring up to the podium some of the coordinators of marches throughout Georgia that will be crossing Edmund Pettus Bridges in their individual areas. Please. All the coordinators.
I'll take the banner so people can come too. You don't have to see.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juliana Njoku. I'm not just the coordinator for the DeKalb leg of this Good Trouble March. I'm also Georgia's National Organization of Women's treasurer and economic justice chair. I'm beyond excited to be a part of this particular march, as I've marched with Black Lives Matter and I've marched with many other civil rights marches and conversations that have been going on. But this one is special to me because of John Lewis. I had the esteemed pleasure of meeting John Lewis and having conversations with him about what I'm actually doing now. And what John Lewis has always been about the people, but not just about the stagnation of people. He's always been about the advancement of people. And in his struggles to fight for the things that advance people, voting was one of his key points. I just want to address the people that are watching this and say, dear young people, if you're watching this now, this is your time.
Yes.
The baton is in your hands. Our leaders are aging, our leaders are moving on, and they are opening up seats that belong to you. But you cannot discount all the things that they fought for. You cannot discount voting. You cannot discount showing up. You cannot discount what they have bled and died for, because that is the ground that you are here to build upon. Dear young people, if you do nothing else on December the 14th, vote. If you do nothing else on December the 14th, take somebody to the polls. If you do nothing else between now and January 5th, you need to represent everything that everyone died for. Not for any other reason than because your future generations are depending on that. Your young children and your future children are dependent on what you do every time that you are called to the table. Dear young people, I'm asking you to join me and the other coordinators that have given up our time and efforts.
Yes.
Are giving up our hours and our sleep.
Yes.
To get in your cars and be a part of this votercade, if for no other reason than to let them know that you are here.
Yes.
Black Lives Matter is not the end of the story. The people that we've buried is not the end of the story.
No.
The story begins and ends with everybody that takes the baton. Dear young people, we're asking you today to take the baton, to run this race with us and for us, to take it to the level of freedoms and liberties that you all deserve, because people have fought to get you here.
Yes.
This is not a time for complacency. I'm looking forward to seeing every young person that we can muster out at any one of these rallies and marches. We're at a neighborhood near you, and we're at a neighborhood near you with no excuses. What we're asking you to do is beyond simple. Is to sign your name on the dotted line and tell the government and the nation and the country that you live in what you want through your vote. Do you want money? Do you want economic stability? Do you want jobs? Do you want housing? Do you want better schools? Do you want better roads? What do you want? But you have to ask first with your vote of who do you want to represent you to get you there. Many people that spoke today have spoken about their representatives, have spoken about themselves being representatives. So I'm speaking today as one of the coordinators in line with the other people that are standing next to me to say, dear young people, the baton is in your hand. Run this race with us and help us cross the finish line.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. There you go. And they're all trying to catch that. Okay. I got this.
This concludes the press conference that we have here today. We invite everyone to go to votingrightsalliance.org, votingrightsalliance.org, to find a John Lewis March in your area to attend. votingrightsalliance.org. On behalf of SCLC, on behalf of Rainbow Push, on behalf of the National Bar Association, and on behalf of the Transformative Justice Coalition, we thank and the mighty People's Agenda. We thank you for coming out and look forward to your participation. And please, if you have an absentee ballot, vote. If you don't have an absentee ballot, you must request one to receive one to be able to vote. It will not be sent to you automatically. Request an absentee ballot and vote. And if you're voting in person beginning December 14th, start coming in and voting by absentee ballot or voting in person at polling locations near you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.